Chicago Cubs News Today.
Did you see what happened to us in just 2 weeks? 3 of our 5 best pitchers, gone. Horton? Surgery. His season is over before it even started. Boyd? Biceps injury. Wicks? Elbow inflammation since February. And now there are already people saying the Chicago Cubs season is over. Cubs fans, what do you think about this situation? Because this story is bigger than it looks. How the Chicago Cubs can save the season despite pitching injuries. What was supposed to be the Cubs' best pitching rotation in years turned into a nightmare in just 2 weeks. Cade Horton? Tommy John surgery. Matthew Boyd? Injured list. Jordan Wicks? Out since February. And now we have to figure out how to save this season with half the pitching staff in the hospital. But here's the truth. This game can still be turned around. The Cubs entered 2026 with one of the most envied rotations in the National League. Cade Horton was coming off a sensational rookie season with a 2.67 ERA and nearly winning Rookie of the Year. Matthew Boyd had just been named an All-Star. Shota Imanaga signed that one-year qualifying offer after dominating in 2024 with 15 wins and a 2.91 ERA. The franchise invested heavily, built a real pitching staff, the kind that wins divisions. Then April happened. In less than 15 days, 3 of the 5 main starters went down. Horton with a season-ending surgery, Boyd on the injured list with a biceps issue. Wicks had already been out since spring training. For a team that wanted to compete for a title, this is catastrophic. And you know what that means, right? All the pressure now falls on whoever is left. There's no more margin for error. No more 5 guys fighting for 4 spots. Now it's simple. Whoever is standing has to carry the load. And look, I understand the frustration. We waited all year to see this pitching staff working together, and in 2 weeks, everything collapsed. But this is where you separate a serious franchise from a team that quits. The Cubs are not quitting. The question is, how do you make this work? The answer starts with 2 names, Shota Imanaga and Edward Cabrera. These 2 now have to become the backbone of the rotation. Imanaga had an uneven first outing, but pitching coach Tommy Hotovy made it clear. His stuff in 2026 is better than it was in 2024. His fastball velocity jumped from 90.8 to 92.2 miles per hour, and against the Pirates on the 10th, he carried a no-hitter into the 6th inning. That's the Imanaga the Cubs need. On the other side, Edward Cabrera is the guy who came from Miami with ace-level potential. He posted a 2.22 ERA in 16 games between May and August last year. At 27 years old, throwing in the high 90s with 4 different pitches, Cabrera is intimidating. And in 2 games with the Cubs, he hasn't allowed a single run. That's not luck, that's talent. I've always believed the Cubs had players who could take a punch, but this start to the season is testing everything. And I'll be honest with you, if Imanaga and Cabrera can truly eat innings, we still have a chance. Jameson Taillon fits in as a solid, reliable number 3. If the back end of the rotation just does the basics, this team can hold on. But it only works if those 2 stay healthy and dominant. No more injuries, no more bad surprises. The margin is gone, completely gone. And yes, that puts enormous pressure on these pitchers. But they know it, and I believe they're ready. Now here's the part nobody wants to hear. Pitching alone won't save this season. The offense has to show up. And so far, it hasn't. The Cubs rank 18th in runs scored and 19th in WRC+ over the first 2 weeks. That's unacceptable for a lineup like this. Alex Bregman was brought in to drive the ball out of the park from the right side. He's drawing walks, showing discipline, but the runs aren't coming. Nico Hoerner is coming off a 6.2 B-WAR season, a Gold Glove, nearly a batting title. Where is that version of Hoerner now? On paper, This is one of the most balanced lineups in the National League. Pete "Crow" Armstrong brings speed and defense. Ian Happ has power and consistency. Dansby Swanson gives you quality on both sides of the game. But paper doesn't win games. Things will improve when Seiya Suzuki returns from his knee injury. Until then, manager Craig Counsell needs to find ways to score against good opposing pitching. No more waiting for a 3-run homer to fall from the sky. Small ball, situational hitting, aggressive base running. None of it is glamorous, but it wins close games. And this season will be full of close games. The pitching will give up more runs than anyone expected back in January. The offense has to compensate. It has to do its job. Because if the bats don't wake up, it won't matter how brilliant Imanaga and Cabrera are. There won't be enough runs to win. I know this sounds pessimistic, but it's not. It's realistic. This is a team built for October, and a bad April doesn't erase that. If Imanaga and Cabrera stay healthy, if this veteran-loaded offense starts clicking, Chicago can stay alive in the NL Central race long enough for Boyd and Justin Steele to come back and change everything. Because when those guys return healthy, the rotation becomes something else entirely. That's when you get depth back. Options. Flexibility. But until then, it's about survival. It's about fighting every single game, trusting who's available, and hoping nothing else breaks. The Cubs' 2026 season is not over. It's being tested earlier than anyone expected, but it's not over. The difference between a team that collapses and one that fights is the ability to adapt when everything goes wrong. Chicago has talent, leadership, experience in tough situations. Now it's about proving it. Trust the healthy players. Get the offense going. Hold the line until reinforcements return. It's April. There are still 140 games left. Look, nobody planned for this kind of start. Nobody imagined a scenario where half the rotation disappears in 2 weeks. But this is reality. And the truth is, the Cubs have been through worse. They've rebuilt. They've fought. They've found ways to win when nobody believed. This situation tests the character of the franchise. Now we'll see if Shota Imanaga and Edward Cabrera can hold the line, if the offense wakes up before it's too late, and if the Cubs can reach June still alive in the race. Because if they do, when Boyd and Steele return, that's when everything changes. Until then, one day at a time. Go Cubs, go!